Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day.
Available to you. And so what ladies did, 1700s, this time of the year, about 3 weeks, they would spend 7 to 8 hours a day making hundreds of candles a day. Enough candles for the year, because we are just shy of the shorter days starting. And so they would make hundreds and hundreds of candles. You gotta figure, this house alone probably 30 to 40 candles a night to light.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So the amount of things that need to be done for that is huge. So they would spend a huge amount of time doing that. And they would take all the candles, put them in boxes, cover them with straw, put them down in their cold room. So either their spring house or their cellar or whatever, especially because they were made with tallow. So beeswax will last almost indefinitely, but tallow not. So you can get away with probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 months with the tallow in a cold, dark place. So typically where you'd store root vegetables, things along those lines, and be just fine. Considerably more filtered. Okay. Historic tallow though was not as filtered. They didn't filter it. They would sit there and boil it, and what would come on the top, they'd scrape the crap off and hope to have what was left. Eventually they'd get to a cake, a tallow cake. They'd scrape that off, and then they would take that. But there was no filtering abilities for it, so it would have some degree of other organic matter in it, so it wouldn't last as long. But in the backcountry, that was your only option in a lot of cases. I mean, you got to figure, just throw numbers on things to make it make sense. I mean, let's just say a tallow candle costs about a penny a piece. Between the wick and the wax and the labor, costs about a penny a piece. Okay. Beeswax can cost you about 6 cents a piece. Okay. Today's terms, a pound of wax is $20. Okay. I've burned almost 4.5 pounds of wax today. Okay.
Okay, where did they get their wicks? Did they make those out of cotton, or what did they use?
You were on it. You're the best kind of spectator. I like this. Hold on a minute. So, in the backcountry, there were a couple different kind of wicks that they used. So, your first kind, and let me step back a little bit. I like doing candles because what I think is really interesting about this is it's a doorway into understanding where a person was in their life, okay? Where they were economically, where they were socially, how traveled they were, how not traveled they were, how the stresses they had, things like that. Because candles during the 1700s and the 1800s were as essential to life as food and clothing were, okay? Because we take for granted the ability to turn on a light today, okay? So the materials and the way that they did it really spoke a lot about the person and their ability to be able to move forward, okay? So we talked a little bit about but the wicks are a really interesting doorway into a person. So there were really 3 different kinds of wicks that were prevalent in the backcountry, Carolinas. First is this one. So do you have any clue what this is?
It feels like twine of some kind, like a plant.
It is a plant.
But I don't know what it is. I don't have a clue what that would be, do you? I don't know.
So that is flax.
Flax.
That is flax.
No, man.
And this is actually the toe of flax. So this is the part that's left over after they've been beating it against the medieval torture device to scrape it through to get the good flax to make clothes. Okay. So if you were exceptionally poor, then this would be the wick choice that you had. You could get this for next to nothing. Okay, this is throwaway material. They would use this to stuff pillows. This was throwaway material. You could take this and you would braid it into a wick, and you could use it and dip it the same way you dip any other thing. Now, this is interesting because flax today is typically very much used in sports clothing. So clothes that tend to wick the sweat away from you, which wick the sweat away means it just doesn't absorb the sweat. That's what it means by that. Right. Now that's great for clothes. Not so good for candles, because the whole point of a wick is to draw the wax from the bottom to the top. It needs to draw it, meaning it needs to suck it up and move it towards the heat. Cold wants to move towards hot. Okay? So that's the way it works. if something cannot move it from cold to hot, then you're just going to burn it and the candle's going to go out. Okay, poor man's candle. Okay. Your next grade is going to be this. This is hemp. Okay, this is waxed hemp, but this is hemp. And what's interesting about hemp, and I'll compare it to this, I'll talk about this in a minute. So even if you kind of look at the end of that, it's just twisted. This is not twisted. Right. Hemp has the ability of basically holding together really well. You can kind of pull it, its fibers just hold together really, really well. One of the things it was particularly great with, is one of the reasons they loved the hemp so much in the Western Carolinas, is great for sales. Okay, so hemp is really good for that. Very, very strong, exceptionally strong. It also wicks considerably better than the flax does, but it's not the best wicking material. But if you were a grade above, right, you would use this. Okay, this is very, very accessible. This would be considered effectively middle-class America, right, of wicking material. Okay, your third, and which would have been typical, would have been this braided cotton. So that's braided cotton. Now, why that would be more expensive is because there's no cotton growing here. There's no cotton, doesn't grow here today. In the Carolina backcountry, cotton does not grow here. Where does cotton grow?
It did for us when we were young.
We grew. I got my
grew
first
it.
bicycle was picking cotton.
Out in the coast, though. Out closer to the coast.
Yeah, but it does grow here because
Yeah,
we had
there's
to
some
pick
fields around here. There really are.
We lived
Yeah.
over here near Dove's Mountain. And we picked
Oh.
And I used to keep seeds and plant them at the end of my garden every year, so I'd have some bowls of it to pick.
So
pretty.
the cotton was brought in. Cotton was brought in. I think it was the British brought it in, and it came in through Charleston. And it was started to be planted out that way. That's where it was typically growing at the time. To get a hold of this, then they had to go out there. Okay, that says something about the people, that they were able to leave. They were able to leave here and go weeks to there to get stuff, right? That means you either had business dealings out that way, right? Or you had the means to pay somebody to do that. You're paying the transportation costs, right? You're paying the risk of traveling through. This is still Indian country back this way, right? To get a hold of this. This is the best material, right? You go mow the lawn in a cotton shirt, you come in soaking wet, right? You mow the lawn in a workout shirt, you're a little less soaking wet, right? So this is the better wicking material. This would be a higher quality person of better means. So then you would braid this. You do not need to braid this. You had to braid this. So the braiding was necessary to keep the wick from fraying out and opening at the top. Have you ever seen a wick that it's like opened up like that? So modern wicks tend to be twisted wicks, and so they don't hold very well. Historic wicks were braided to keep that fraying from happening. Wool does not burn. Wool does not burn.
Well, let me ask you the colors of it. I see what would you use to color?
So everything is natural, right?
That's what I
Beeswax
figured.
is yellow. You're going to get variations of beeswax
Right.
based upon what they feed off of.
So that's straight beeswax.
This is
without
straight
any color.
beeswax. That's straight
Yeah,
beeswax.
The green ones. is
Yep.
what I was-
This is also beeswax.
Oh,
Okay.
brown. They look brown.
Slightly brown. It's been, my best guess is it was more exposed to pollen. This is not beeswax.
Oh, okay.
This is bayberry. Bayberry. It's the smell of Christmas. So you had tallow as your primary one in the backcountry. Your next up was your beeswax, right? Considerably more expensive. $20 a pound now, right? Way more expensive, okay? Then you're next up to your bayberry. Again, these were all documented as having been said to have been in the Carolinas in the 1700s, okay? Bayberry. So bayberry is not from here. Bayberry is from the Northeast. It is very, very expensive. These two candles a couple years ago cost me $30, okay? Real bayberry is very expensive, okay? Fake bayberry is very cheap, right? The real bayberry is very expensive. It was very expensive then as well, okay? That says something about you. You had the means to get to that part of the country, right? It's not, you can't go to Kmart or Walmart at the time to get this stuff.
So could you get those candles white? Is there anything that you could do to the beeswax to make it white? No.
No, white candles would have been either tallow or the fourth kind of candle, which is spermaceum. You know what spermaceum is?
From the whales?
From the whale. It's the fat from the head of a sperm whale. Obviously, I can't demonstrate that because it's illegal to kill them now. But yes, so that would have been your bee's knees, most amazing candle ever. So that is like the energy efficient light bulb of the 1700s was a spermaceum candle. Right, the brightest bright glow off of that candle. It takes forever to burn. There's no wax melt. There is no smoke. It is energy. It consumes everything that it is there. You are getting every ounce of value out of that product, but it's also exceptionally expensive. Right? The guys who had the harpoons on the ships were not the ones that could afford this. The guys that owned the entire shipping company with 1,200 ships or whatever to hunt these whales were the ones that could afford this. Right? Those are the amazing. I've only ever seen them in museums, and it's only been once. So, yeah, I think it's actually illegal to own the candles now. Sort of like ivory.
That was very
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you all so much.
for doing that.